Hello, and welcome to Hold This Thought, a podcast where I invite you to hold on to thoughts that you might not have had before. Each week, I sit across from a new guest, and we talk life, ideas, and ponder the questions that make us think twice. I hope you enjoy the show.
I was arrested many times. So I mean, even after that experience, I violated my probation in some way. I had to go back to Denny Youth Center. So I was like the type of person that I will never stop doing drugs. Like I will die doing drugs because I love them so much. I love the way they make me feel. Like people would warn me, hey, look at my teeth from doing all this meth. And my teeth are messed up. You don't want to do this. Like, I don't care. I'm going to die doing drugs because it makes me feel so awesome. It makes me forget about my problems. It makes me forget about like the pain that I'm feeling right now. And they started beating the crap out of me right there. I just like trying to get away from them. I was like walking up the stairs in the apartment complex. And finally, I don't even know how long it had been, but somebody was like, hey, get off of her. I was so like hurting and broken. Use drugs as an outlet. I want to go to those same people and tell them there is hope. You don't have to be an addict forever. You don't have to die an addict. You don't have to be stuck in this situation forever. You can get out. There's hope for you. I thought I was going to be a statistic. I should have been a statistic of like some 15-year-old girl dying in an overdose. I'm just like so grateful for what I have, what I've been given, that I'm made it this far in my life.
But God.
10 years.
10 years? You
11
beat me.
years.
You beat me.
I took a break, a long break.
What did you major in?
It was, so I don't know if you like are the same way, but I'm like so passionate about so many different things. And I'm like,
yes, I'm interested by so many different things.
Then I was like, so let me do an interdisciplinary thing. And so I did interdisciplinary English, business, and human services. And then I was like, I'm going to be bored if I just sit on a computer all day. I need to figure out what I want to do. And then I love doing the whole acting thing that I do.
How many times did you do that?
Do what?
Acting gigs. Was it just the one, or was there multiple?
No, I do a lot all the time.
I didn't know that. Let's start there. Tell me about your acting career.
It's not a career.
It sounds like a career.
I just as a stay-at-home mom and a huge extrovert, I want to get out of the house. And I'm like, how am I going to get out of the house and get money and just like do something, be around people, which I love to do. It doesn't even feel like I'm making money. It doesn't even feel like I'm like working for money. It just feels like, oh, I'm getting around people and being around in my element, getting out of the house occasionally. And so I started mainly doing like background stuff. And that was, what was it? 2021 when I started just doing background things. But then I got more into it in 2023. People started reaching out for me. I did it's called a principal role, but it's like still background. But it was like Samuel L. Jackson, SandCloud, Capital One.
Wow.
You can see the back of my hair.
You're in a commercial. Probably a lot of commercials.
I'm in a few, yeah.
Okay. So you did it from 19 to 20.
I've been until 2021 till now.
Okay.
I just started. I was like, hey, this is something I can do to get out of the house every once in a while and make some money and be around people and hear, because I'm like you, I like to hear interesting stories. I like when I'm out there and there's a lot of downtime if you're in background and you just hear everybody's stories. You hear about all their lives.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Tell you their whole life
How
story.
many projects have you done in this acting career?
Acting. I do a lot of UGC too. And
For
that's
those
user-generated content.
Okay. Oh, so like it's like a vertical content. You're promoting a product type thing for a company.
I won't do it for any product, though. Really, I won't. I've been asked to do it for a few, but I have done it for Greenlight.
What is Greenlight?
Greenlight is a debit card for kids that they can do tours and make money for their little debit cards.
That's
and
pretty
so
cool.
I have done like UGC, which is UGC, user-generated content. It's for like Facebook, social media, and you record it yourself. So you do all the recording, but then they put it all together and market it for different products.
That sounds lovely.
And so my kids have helped me for the Greenlight ads, and so they have a little savings account.
That's pretty cool. Just the fact that you just get to record the content and then you send it off to a company to do all the editing sounds like a dream come true for me. I've been doing a lot of editing with this whole podcast, and we have similar personalities. So just to be able to just be on camera and then not have to worry about the details or the aftermath is, hopefully one day I'll be at that.
And I'll just record what they want. So I've done like UGC for some skincare brands, dermatology, green light, just did one for DoorDash. I did one for ancestral supplements and might do one for Thrive Market. So just, it's a great gig because I can do it on my own time. There's deadlines, of course, but I work great under deadlines. I love deadlines. I'm like, if I have a deadline, I'm like, okay, I just work best under pressure. So
yeah, I also work good under pressure when I don't have a deadline, whether that's, you know, in the past from an employer presenting it to me or even putting them on myself. I will, like a lot of people, just procrastinate. And deadlines are, I think, a helpful way to keep us on track with whatever goal or objective we're working on. So you've been doing this for almost, I guess, 5 years. Do you intend to scale it and grow it to something more full-time? Maybe, are you looking to be in film and TV?
It's very hard to break into the industry because you have a lot of people auditioning for the role. So I might audition for 2-3 roles and it might be even promising. So first, the process is basically I don't have an agent representing me because it's a lot of money for headshots. It's a lot of money for makeup, you know, to hire a makeup artist to get headshots. So I kind of just do it myself. I'm on a couple different platforms, casting networks and Actors Access. And then on Facebook, I follow different things for auditions. And so I'm on like email lists and everything like that. So I audition probably 3 to 4 times a week.
Wow. I didn't.
I know I'm not going to get.
Yeah, but it's good experience. I mean, you're putting yourself out there. This is related, but totally kind of a dumb example. But it's funny you mentioned that you're competing with so many people because my wife and I have been watching The Big Bang Theory, and you know, we just had a baby, so we're like, we have a lot of time at home. You know, we want something to do we can do together, low stress. We're binge watching The Big Bang Theory. And halfway through the seasons, there's a scene where one of the main actresses, Penny, who's a blonde, late 20s, early 30s character, goes to apply for an interview for an actress role. Audition is the word, I suppose. And she walks in the room, and there are like 15 to 20 blonde ladies that look very similar to her, already sitting there, reading newspapers, you know, kind of not magazines, you know, on their phone, kind of waiting for their next call to go and audition. And she kind of opens the door and is like, oh, this is why I quit doing this. And I say that to say people who may have not ever been in the actress or acting world may not know the level of competition. They might, you know, see it and think, oh, wow, yeah, I would imagine there's competition. But I'm sure you've walked into rooms where there's a lot of people maybe waiting to be interviewed or auditioned who look similar to you because I assume they are looking for a certain part or a certain, you know, aesthetic. And I mean, acting is, you know, your face and your body. They're looking for a certain type of image. What, I guess my question is, have you walked into these auditions and I want to say interview, but that's not the right word. But for these different roles, and then, you know, been like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here. Or is it more like nowadays?
Thankfully, it's online.
It's online. Now. Okay, so you just virtually.
First, you send a picture, and they're like, okay. Then you do an audition, and if they like your audition, they might say, hey, I want some more recent selfies, or they might say, what's your social media handle? Or they might ask a few more questions. So it can be like really hopeful that I'm going to get this gig. And then all of a sudden, crickets. And it's in the industry, it's kind of rude to ask like, hey, did I get picked for this role? Or are you moving on with somebody else? So you can't really ask those questions. You just have to wait. It's a waiting game. And I feel like you have to have a lot of, I'm like, what do I have like self-confidence? Like, how am I keep doing that? I think I enjoy it, number one. That's why I keep doing it. But you just have to have a lot of like grit to say, I'm going to keep doing this, even though it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
And I might not get a lot of gigs.
And the worst part is you're not getting those. You're just getting, we'll be in touch, or we'll call you back, or we'll contact you. And then you don't hear from those people ever again. And I can imagine mentally, just psychologically, you're going to 3 or 4 interviews a week, auditions a week, and feeling like, when are they going to call back? And I know you've had some success so far, but yeah, it takes a lot of resilience.
Well, I was contacted by this film industry they were making this, I don't know how much I can actually share about this, but they're making some kind of documentary. And it's like very well-known producers, very well-known. They've done a lot of big movies and shows and documentaries. So I actually met with the producers, shared my story, and they're like, we'll be in touch in 2-3 months if you get it. And so it was like, okay, I could be on this documentary sharing, my story on it. It was a waiting game and I never heard back, but I did email back, which I didn't know if it's standard protocol or not, but I was like, thank you for this opportunity. It was nice meeting you. I look forward to watching this documentary.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of like, it's not even a lot of no's. It's just like a lot of like everything could be up in the air and I just have to check my emails nonstop to see if I get something, because once they're asking for that information, you have to give it to them quickly. Otherwise, they're just going to move to the next person.
Yeah. You're in a race against 100 or 1,000 other people. And yeah, it's a race and you have to be quick. And the first early bird gets the worm. That's what they say. I was just going to add, I can imagine a documentary being even more emotionally, psychologically challenging because you're interviewing about something real in your life to share, not pretending to be another person in a film or a TV show. And that takes a lot of courage, first and foremost, if it's something challenging you went through or a hardship or something like that. And then not hearing back, I can just imagine that being like a sucker punch in the stomach or taking the wind out of your sails and being discouraging.
For some reason, I'm just like, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to keep going because I honestly like it. It honestly doesn't feel like work. And so if it doesn't feel like work, that's when I'm like, well, I want to do it. I want to audition for this. It's fun. And my kids love helping me too. They'll be like, if there's lines involved, they'll be in the background and they're just having a great time. And they've done a few things.
That's really cool.
A few gigs as well. They really liked it. So
yeah, I saw a quote the other day. It said, "Find something." Neil deGrasse Tyson said this, and a lot of people have said it. It's been repeated thousands of times. But find something you love doing, make that your vocation, your job, your career, and do it. And you'll never feel like you're working another day in your life because you'll just be having fun. And I mean, you've been smiling since you started talking about it.
Well, there's so many things that I love. So
I can imagine.
It's like, I can't focus on one thing though. So
yeah,
I think that's the hard part because there's a lot of things that I love. So I put my time and energy and not just trying to get acting gigs, but I put a lot of time and energy in other things. So
let's talk about that. You and I actually share that common trait where we have a broad interest of topics, people, places, everything. We're interested by so many things. And we were talking before the show how, certain types of people might be wired that way, whereas other people might prefer to sit at home with a book or in front of their, TV or, in a more reflective, contemporary lifestyle. For you, how does being interested in so many things and wanting to go and pursue them and do them, how do you balance that with being a mom of 10?
Yep.
I want to pause for effect. 10 kids. 10 kids.
Well,
all natural, right?
All natural. Same baby daddy.
Same.
No twins.
No twins.
What else do people ask me? I don't want to start a baseball team. No.
You've heard it all.
I heard it all. I know how that happens. Yes.
And we'll get to the family in just a minute, but I really want to hone in on how do you manage being interested, passionate, and excited about so many things, and not just like, I want to read about it, I want to go do it. How do you balance that with a very full plate?
I do a lot of multitasking, which is, I wouldn't say that's a good quality to have, but I am a multitasker. Like I will be sitting, so I homeschool my kids in the morning and I'm sitting there on my computer doing emails. I do a lot of market research as well. And so I will get gift cards for giving my opinion about different products or testing different products and giving my opinion. So I do a number of different things and I do multitask a lot.
So that's the trick, multitasking.
And I would say it's not really the best thing to do because I do drop the ball on some things. Like I think I posted on Instagram the other day, there was like a meeting that I had in my calendar and it said meeting 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I was like, I have no idea what this meeting is about. Somebody's going to contact me. Maybe I was talking to them on the phone or something. And they were like, let's do it at this time. And then they were like, let's change it for another time. But I still had that meeting in my phone. Mm-hmm. So, and multitasking, I do drop the ball on some things, but, try to keep up by
well, you have a good excuse.
Having 20 tabs open on my laptop. That's the story of my life.
You have a good excuse. I mean, a lot of people struggle with multitasking with 1 or 2 kids or 4 kids. Mm-hmm. My wife and I just had a baby. We've both said the following phrase: how are we going to have another one? This is so hard.
It is hard.
We're only 2 months in. And here you are, you have, your oldest is how old?
23.
23.
Mm-hmm. So he'll be 23 in May.
So for the past 23 years, you've been having kids and having kids and having more kids and adding.
And being a stay-at-home mom.
And being a stay-at-home mom the whole time. Mm-hmm. And you've moved too. Like, you're not from Georgia. You've kind of lived maybe on all sides of the country. Where'd you start at? And then what brought you to Georgia, I guess?
So I was 18 when I decided that I wanted to join the LA Dream Center.
Okay.
Because I saw them doing awesome stuff, loving their neighbors, going out and like not just being a church, but going out on the streets and like doing kind of like humanitarian work in a way, but actually going, oh, there's people that need food. Let's go and bring them food. There's people that, are kind of stuck in these places. Let's bring Sidewalk Sunday School Church to them. So that was really exciting. A medical mobile unit was what drew my attention, because I was like, I wanted to be a nurse during this time. And I was like, I want to do the medical mobile unit and like go to people that don't have insurance. And I joined the LA Dream Center, moved when I was 18 years old.
Wow. And you met your husband there.
Mm-hmm.
And then
volunteering at probably working 35 hours a week of volunteering work. I worked in a kitchen, serving food, serving homeless people. So I had to do that 35 hours a week. I had room and board, but I wanted to do fun things because I live in LA. We have so many different things that are going on. So I worked at Starbucks as well. And then I would go out to Santa Monica and do a feeding program. And then I had kids that were from the inner city that had, they're from kind of some like rough upbringing. My friend and I, we had like a dance team, and I don't dance, but I just kind of managed the kids, and she would teach them these amazing dance moves, and they would like perform for the church, for the youth group. And so I did a lot of different things when I was there at the Dream Center.
Yeah. So you were really plugged in this church. You met Gabe, your husband, there.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime later you moved was Georgia your next move some years later, or did you have other stopping points between LA and Atlanta?
So from LA, we moved to where his parents were at, and that was in Northern California.
Okay.
And when we were there, his mom was talking about like, I want to do a dream center in Atlanta. Atlanta needs a dream center. And back then, Atlanta was a lot different. Like, they hadn't invested all that money into the Beltline and Punt City Market and all the awesome things that Atlanta has right now. There's a lot of, neighborhoods that were the kids in the neighborhood, the community was like struggling. And so they were like, Atlanta needs a dream center. So we just moved to Atlanta and like, we just go out into the community and see, hey, how can, like on a Saturday, we just knock on doors and see, like, what do you need? There's a lot of people in the community that didn't have cars. They might needed prescriptions and they didn't have a way to get it, the elderly. And then, so we just like loved our neighbors in that sort of way. We would do random things, babysit kids. I would do so many different things, like bring them food actually, and do Sidewalk Sunday School for kids who, kind of couldn't go to church or whatever.
Yeah. My main takeaway from what you just shared was we were talking about your interest in so many passions and fun things to do, and really essentially just being involved in life instead of being a spectator in it. And I love how you took that same natural wiring and you applied it to your faith. You wanted to be hands-on in your faith. A lot of Christians, and I've been there in my life, I'm not saying that I'm not this way at times, but a lot of Christians spend more time in a passive role in their faith. And I think we all could use a little bit more active community outreach. And it doesn't have to be across an ocean to make an impact. We can make an impact in our neighborhoods and in our backyards. And a lot of times in the Christian world, we lose sight of that. We think, I go to church on Sunday. If that's every week, a lot of Christians maybe don't go to church every Sunday. I don't go every single Sunday.
I go every Sunday.
I miss a couple here and there, but there's a world out there that needs our help. And I think that's a pivotal component of Christianity, is being a light in a dark place. And just to open this up a little more, Christians have a bad rap across social media and all over the world because of all sorts of, I would say malpractice, but that's more of a medical term. But there's just a lot of scandals that come out across all denominations. And that causes a lot of resentment from, atheists or agnostics or other people of other religions. And I think it's important for people who are not a Christian to understand that that's a small percentage. Just like the Muslims that want to kill everyone in the world is such a small percentage.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not representative of the entire Islam faith. There's a lot of beautiful people that believe in Islam. And while we might disagree on a religious basis, Christianity versus Islam, they're not all wanting to commit jihad and fight and go to war, just like not all Christians are involved in scandals. And I think that you and what you and your husband have done really throughout your life, first in LA and now in what you came to Atlanta many years ago, in being a light in a dark place, is a best way that we can exemplify our Christian faith. Before we go too deep, I wanted to talk about fitness. That's something you're so passionate about.
Yes.
And we were talking about that before the show. And you were mentioning that there's a way for parents, specifically moms, to be active, to be engaged with their fitness journey. And listen, I didn't even need to hear the proof. When a mom of 10 was telling that to me, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm not a mom, but I bought into the whatever you're selling or whatever you're promoting. What is it that you have found in your fitness journey that you think a lot of moms might be missing out on, that they could implement and make a radical difference in their own personal health journeys?
I don't even know where to get started with this, but I mean, I was a teenager in the 90s, and that was like skinny culture. You have to be skinny, cardio. And that was primarily pushed. And so early on, I did a lot of running, which the Pacific Northwest, you just run outside and it's beautiful. You see the mountains and it's just a spectacular view. And I just love running so much. But cardio was probably primarily what I was actively engaged in. And I did track and field when I was in high school, but doing track and field, I did more weights and stuff. But even with that training, I was still like cardio driven, skinny. You do this so you can be skinny. And there was really, even working out like during pregnancy, I've worked out with every single pregnancy. So when I was pregnant with him, he's almost 23 now. So think 24 years ago, seeing a mom work out, when it was very rare. And then they just had like a lot of people saying, you're going to miscarry. This is not healthy for you. And I'm doing like Billy Blank's Taekwondo. This is back in the day. So this is back in the day. I was running and doing Taekwondo. And then with every pregnancy, it was like people around didn't really catch on. Like women can work out when they're pregnant. Even though like guidelines had been changed, and they're still being modified and changed as well, which recent guidelines that came out just were like, hey, you don't have to, they were always say you can stick with a workout program, but you don't want to start a workout program while you're pregnant. But now they're saying it's better actually to just work out when you're pregnant, 150 minutes a week. And another thing, they would say you have to wait 6 weeks before you're seen by a doctor to actually work out again, which, being a mom and experiencing postpartum and your body is all out of whack. The worst thing that you can tell a mom is wait 6 weeks to get back into your fitness routine. And I'm not saying you're going to go out and run like 5 miles or whatever, but just getting back into that routine now ACOG's guidelines say, which is American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, they say that you can actually work out when you feel ready. So they've upgraded those guidelines. But throughout my pregnancies, I mean, I would see people at the gym and they'd be like, did a doctor say you could be here? Like, not somebody who worked there. Like a grown man in the gym would come up to me and be like,
person just interjecting themselves into your life. Yeah.
I was doing like weights at the gym, and I was using I don't know, it was lat pull down or something. This woman randomly came up to me, adjusted my weights, and was like, you're too scrawny to do that, adjusted my weights. And I was pregnant too. So she didn't want me like overdoing it. I've had like different people in like workout spin classes, like come up to me and get off the bike that were leading the classes, come up to me, get off the bike and be like, hey, just want to make sure you're not, going to labor or anything. So thankfully with social media, it's become more normal to work out, for moms to work out during pregnancy. But back in the day, that's not what it was. And I had to push through a lot of like different people telling me like that it wasn't good, that it wasn't safe. And so I didn't listen to them, thankfully. Worked out and I've loved it.
Yeah. My wife loves to work out at the gym. She's done Orange Theory. She's done other programs. And she's, up until this past year when she got pregnant, she did it for a large part of her pregnancy. And then somewhere along the way, she's like, maybe I need to take a break. And I think a lot of women feel that way, that this is my time to, be more restrictive of my body and be more careful. And I think I don't want to use the word testimony, but your experience speaks a lot, having gone through 10 kids, worked out through every pregnancy, and within a few to several weeks of each one in postpartum, started that routine again. It seems like it's not something that you've made a part of who you are, but rather something that this is who you are. This is a lifestyle choice.
I mean, I freaked a lot of people out running. Like I would go up Stone Mountain, carry my 2-year-old on my shoulders, and like go up Stone Mountain 9 months pregnant. And people would like look at me and be like, either they would look at me and just be bewildered, or they'd be clapping.
I would
it's just abnormal.
I would probably be clapping if I saw 9 months pregnant, so full belly.
Yeah, full belly.
And then there's a 2-year-old on your shoulders. Yeah, that was
climbing up the mountain. That was blessed. But yeah, I've tried to stay active with all my pregnancies. There's a turning point in my life when I think it was 2014, because I was cardio driven, still skinny driven in that time frame. Maybe 70% cardio, 30% weights. I tore my meniscus and it wasn't repairable, and I had surgery, and I was like, I need to change the way that I do things, because this cardio nonstop is hard on my knees. Even though I did like a half marathon since then, but I kind of changed my approach to fitness and started doing more strength training, which at that time, I was probably like 120 pounds, but I've gained like 15 pounds, 10, 15 pounds by strength training. And it's not a bad thing to gain weight. It's not a bad thing to lift heavy. And you're not going to get, I work out 5-6 times a week. I think a lot of fear and misconceptions with women is that if I do weights and if I lift heavy, I'm going to like look like, I'm going to look like the Hulk or something like that. And then like, it's not going to happen, guys.
I've heard that sentiment from women so many times. They feel like if I work out, I'm going to just shred up and look like a bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 1980s. And that's not the case. Women's bodies are different.
We're definitely built
testosterone is a huge driver in men developing, and I'm not speaking from experience, of course, but in the people who dedicate their lives to this and bodybuilding and weightlifting and powerlifting, testosterone is a huge driving force in the muscle mass being built and compounded, and protein and creatine. But women are wired differently. Their main hormone is estrogen. And so when they go, maybe not the same weight, but when they go after it with the same intensity, maybe the same percentage to body weight level of activity, squatting, bench press, all the other auxiliary power cleans, all the other auxiliary workouts as well, they're, like you said, they're not going to turn into the Hulk, even though a lot of them think they will. And I think it's a good paradigm shift for women to hear that you're not going to 5 or 6 days a week, you're not going to have ripped muscles and veins popping out of your arms. You're going to look healthy.
And then I do have to it's like kind of reteaching my clients. I do have to tell them, hey, you might actually gain weight. Like you might not actually lose weight when you're on this program because you're building muscle. And I do try to incorporate like cardio HIIT type style workouts as well. And definitely food is, of course, 80% of where you're going to see your results from. And so I feel like a lot of my time is spent kind of shifting those mindsets of like, if I do this, I'm going to get skinny, and then I'm going to do this for an event, or I'm going to do this and I need to like lose 30 pounds in a month. And it's like non-realistic expectations, number one. And then the goal, the mindset, looking good is a good thing to feel. It's a good goal to have, but it's like, if you primarily do it for that, it's going to be up and down all the time. You just have to devote the time to it by having a goal. Like, this is like health benefits that are coming from this. This is like, I'm less susceptible to, certain things, osteoporosis, or I'm less susceptible to these types of things as I age and get older. And I want to be able to be like moving with my grandkids and doing all those types of things. So this is why I'm doing it. Because if you have a mindset, I just want to be skinny, I just feel like a lot of people that have that mindset, they're not going to stick with like the consistency that it takes to work out every day and to stick with it in the long run, basically.
I know the biggest challenge for me is the nutrition component. I love food. A lot of people love food.
I love food
And
too.
when you've been doing the love food side of the lifestyle journey for so long, it can feel overwhelming to switch. And I've done keto for 5 or 6 months and seen tremendous success, but it's not a sustainable, dietary plan. And a lot of people have tried carnivore, and I did carnivore too. And a lot of these different types of diets,
They're quick
fads,
fixes.
they're quick fixes. How did you turn this desire and passion to be healthy long-term into a lifestyle, specifically on the nutritional side? How did you overcome, and maybe you don't love food like the way I do, but it's like, how do you overcome that? I want chips and queso right now. I want ice cream right now.
I love food, but I think my thing too is being so busy, being a multitasker mom. I was thinking I was getting all these nutrients that I wasn't getting. And then I was like, oh, I'm getting protein. I'm getting enough. And then when I started tracking my macros, that was kind of revolutionary for me, because a lot of, being raised in the 90s where it's the skinny culture, which I've already touched on, it was like, you eat less, you eat less. And then, I need actually more calories. Like right now, I would say I eat 1,800 calories a day, when before, when I was running and doing all that cardio activity, I was barely hitting 1,200 calories a day. So I didn't actually realize what I was actually eating until I started tracking my macros. And I feel like tracking macros is more helpful anyways, because if you're like me, if I like have the law or the rule of like, I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to eat this, then it just sets you up for failure, because it's like all these, I could do the Whole30, I could do those things, but a sustainable thing is, I think, counting macros. And that means you have calories, your calories that you take, their food intake goes into different categories: fats, carbs, protein. A lot of women think they're getting a lot of protein by just eating peanut butter and maybe yogurt. And they're realizing, I'm only getting like 50 grams of protein a day, or even not even that much. And your body actually needs more protein. You might even be tired because you're not getting enough protein. And so for me, like when I started counting my macros, counting my calories, figuring out actually what I was doing, I was realizing that I wasn't even getting enough food. And then I was realizing I'm not getting enough protein either. And so doing that is more sustainable for me. So, because if I want to have a chocolate chip cookie, I'll put it in my macro count, my fats. I'll kind of like pick and choose what I want to eat.
You'll calculate it, and you'll make that calculated decision. So it's not restricting to never, which is what something like keto does. In my brain, it's easier to shut something off or
Really?
shut it on. And so with keto, it was like, okay, I'm just going to shut it off. Meat, green vegetables only. I would kind of sprinkle in a cheat night every, like a 4-hour window every 7 to 10 days, every now and then, which is a little bit off keto and more onto the carb night, which is more of a niche version of it. It's more specialized, where you backload the carbs one day every 7 to 10 days. But it was easier for me to shut it on and off. But I like what you're saying in that if you can just commit to counting and understanding what you're putting in your body, that will allow you to make informed decisions about what you're eating. And yes, I can have a chocolate chip cookie today, but maybe I can't have that ice cream tomorrow. Or we have a birthday party on Saturday and there's going to be cake, and I can calculate that into my diet then. And so I'm going to make healthy choices that morning and maybe have a heavy protein meal. And I think a lot of people struggle with, I know I've always struggled with wanting to count my calories because it feels like I got to keep up with something. But it's like, what price are you willing to pay to adopt? I
feel like if you track too for like a couple weeks and just get into healthy rhythm, like I know that, this grilled chicken is going to be, 30 grams of protein or whatever. And then I know that this brownie, it's going to be 30 grams of fat. That's going to take, like 65% of my fat content or my fat count for the day. I don't want to eat that brownie because I want to actually save room for, fat in if I'm going to have a steak or whatever it may be. So just being able to make those choices to where it feels less restrictive for the average person. I know it might seem a little bit like tedious at first to count your calories, to count your macros, but once you get into it and you develop like a healthy rhythm, like I don't count my macros right now because I know like, this, I kind of can eyeball it. Like, okay, that's about 20 grams of protein. That's about 5 grams of fat. Okay. I'll eyeball it now.
Yeah, you gotten so good. You can just eyeball it. I know a lot of people eat out. I eat out all the time. I've said this before. My wife and I, when we had our baby, we went on a Five Guys kick.
Okay.
And
that's good.
That's good food right I didn't even like Five Guys.
The French fries.
I thought Five Guys was overrated for the past 10 years.
Really?
I could pass. Don't need Five Guys. Not that big a deal. It was either the week before she gave birth or the week after we got onto this. Something switched. And ChatGPT said it's like, for the husband, it's like you're preparing for sleepless nights. So you're putting on comfort food plus the protein, blah, blah, blah. That's maybe why the craving was there subconsciously. I don't know. All I'm saying is we were eating Five Guys like 2 or 3 days a week for like 5 or 6 weeks. And it got to be a problem. And I was just like, I think like a week or two ago, I was like, I'm making a decision. We're done. We at least need to separate ourselves from it. And it was just, we're treading water, right? First kid, so we don't know what to expect. And we're treading water, trying to figure out how to raise a child and deal with the sleepless nights. But that was our go-to, just 5. And so my point is a lot of people will go to eat out. And the Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates economy has not helped that when it's now easier than ever. And it's a cost. But I think these companies have capitalized on something a little deeper that's remarkable, is that people will pay a premium for convenience. It's the same model with Airbnb. It's the same model with VRBO. It's the same model with Uber and Lyft. People will pay a premium for a convenience, and that applies to your food being delivered to your door. And so eating out no longer requires you to get in the car and put the kid in the car seat and go out and go to the thing. It comes to you.
For sure.
And the problem with eating out, I know mentally, but I haven't adopted it to my lifestyle, is that it has so much negative, and you probably know all the details on it, so many negatives added to the food, oils and processing and MSG and a lot of restaurants for sweetness. And that stuff is just horrible for your body. But it tastes good. They've engineered it to taste good. And so it becomes addicting and it becomes a cycle that's hard to break out of. What would you say to someone who is in that cycle of like eating out a lot? Maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's 3, 4, 5 days a week. How do they shift their perspective when it's harder to cook at home? It's harder to count calories. I'm doing something that's easy, and now you're presenting something that's more difficult. Why would I switch to that? What would you say to someone who's in that camp?
You have a lot of kids. No, I'm just kidding. You can't afford to go out. No,
that's a good point. When you have 10 kids, you can't go out to Chili's.
I make dinner every night. No, I love food. I love flavor. So creating meals and making food isn't just like, oh, I have to do it. I actually want to do it well, and I want people to enjoy it, and I want to enjoy it because basically I've been doing it every night for the past 24 years or 23 years or so. But so I want to make it good. And so find some recipes. If you want to do copycat Chick-fil-A sauce with yogurt, Greek yogurt, instead of, the mayonnaise that has a higher fat content in it, find some recipes that you really like. And I mean, it might be some time, but a lot of people do meal preps to make it easier to where when they're hungry and they're just going to reach for the chips, they're going to reach for something else. If they have the meal prep already set out that they're able to do like for the week on the off day. I know that that's not really an option for me, but my option is...
You would need like 5 refrigerators to meal
right?
prep.
We do have 2.
10 meals.
But yeah,
3 times a day.
I don't buy the junk food. I seldom buy junk food. So I can't say I don't buy it, but I seldomly will buy junk food because if it's there, I'm going to eat it. If it's there, my kids are going to eat it. So our snacks are like yogurt, Greek yogurt, carrot sticks, apples, oranges, that kind of stuff. But to be prepared to like, I think to actually see dinner as not a chore, but something to make flavorful and purposeful. I think that helps a lot because it's like, I'm just going to stay home and make something that's just a mediocre meal. Find some recipes that are really good and make it. And I'll do a lot of copycat things like yum yum sauce with like, Greek yogurt instead of the high fat that they put in that. And then I'll do Mediterranean. I'll grill chicken probably every night in the summer. It's so good. And because you can just mix it up with a bunch of different sauces. But if you find recipes that are tasteful that you want to eat and you have them on hand, it'll be easier to say no to I'll just DoorDash it.
Yeah. Are you someone who can eat the same thing every night?
No.
Okay. I'm not either.
Not.
My wife, and I love her, she's like, if I was in charge of cooking in this house, which we kind of split 50-50, she's like, if I was in charge, we would just have chicken and broccoli every night. And maybe a sweet potato.
It is good though. Chicken, broccoli, sweet potato. That's good.
Listen, and here's the thing: if we did that, if I was like, okay, we'll do it your way, we would both be like, the best shape of our lives because we're eating healthy. The problem with me, and I think a lot of people have this problem too, is, and I know not maybe a problem, but a preference is I cannot eat the same flavor profile every night. I'll drive myself crazy. When you do restrictive diets like keto, you find yourself in that loop where you are eating similar meals on a frequent basis, and then you just become bored's the wrong word. It's almost like for someone who's never done it, like restricted themselves to a very, very tight diet of only eating certain foods and certain flavorings. It's almost like I cannot do this again or I will lose my mind. Like bored is way too gentle of a term.
I couldn't eat eggs for probably a few years actually because
that's how I was off keto. I couldn't eat eggs and bacon for a long time because you eat it all the time, and yeah, it's you get I don't want to use the word burnout, but you get burnout eating the same food over and over again. How often do you eat out with your family? I mean,
is it very seldom?
Like your birthday, Gabe's birthday?
Basically special. I mean, we might do the Costco pizza thing every once in a while because that's like
my weakness.
$20 you can feed the family and it's really good.
Yeah.
I'll have to put that in my macro count for the day. But we might, like if it's a birthday or something, like my son, he just celebrated his birthday in January and all he wanted to do was for his birthday. You can tell he's like a child with a lot of kids in the family. All he wanted to do was he was like, I want to go to hibachi. That's all I want to do for my birthday. I just want to invite my friends. I'll go. I think the bill was like, it was hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but it was like, this is your birthday present, hibachi. So,
and it's special to him because maybe a family of 4 might go to hibachi a couple times a year, or if they really love hibachi, maybe they'll go 10, 15 times a year. But in a family of 10, you cannot go to hibachi a lot or else.
When I do go out though, I think I can make this at home.
Yeah. Especially if a Blackstone. We got a Blackstone last year for Christmas.
I need to get one of those. Then.
And it makes hibachi so easy. It makes meal prepping easy.
Okay, yes.
Because it's just it's the flat griddle. I mean, it's the same as like the old pancake griddles from like the 90s or early 2000s.
Oh, I have.
You'd plug it in.
Of course, I have those, yeah.
You'd plug it in and you do your pancakes. But it's a little more heavy duty, more space. And yeah, hibachi it just gives a perspective of things that we might take for granted it really is a special occasion when you have 10 people living in the family. So I think if anything, you've inspired me to really think about my fitness journey a little more because I was telling you earlier, I play a lot of pickleball and that's a lot of good cardio, but I get bored with a lifestyle choice and I get bored in the gym, but I know those are 2 things I need to complete the set because I can play pickleball, 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, no problem. But going to the gym for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or, working out in a room in my house, doing body weight exercises, it just feels so impassable. And But yeah, you give me perspective on maybe how I could pivot. I wanted to switch gears and talk about your early life.
Oh gosh.
You have a crazy story.
I try to forget it sometimes, and then it comes out randomly.
And I want to hear it because I really don't know the whole story, but I think it'll be pretty powerful. So why don't you, tell me, just let me put it this way. Tell me about what life was like as a teenager for you.
I was really rebellious early on. I think there was like a situation or circumstance or just an experience I had when I was 9. It was a life-changing, life-altering experience. And after that experience, I kind of was like, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to be my own boss, which was pretty crazy when I think back about it, because I was like, I was thinking that I was doing what I wanted to do. And I was not fulfilled at that time in my life. And I was the most depressed I've ever been. So thinking I'm doing whatever I want to do and it's going to give me this happiness, it left me empty still. So yeah, I just decided, hey, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm going to be my own boss. And if you can imagine that as a child.
And that started at like 10 years old?
That started about 11.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I had some cousins and we would like smoke cigarettes together. That's really how it started. And then we drank together a few times. And then in 7th grade, I was about 12. And a lot of my friends are from the Pacific Northwest. So like one of my friends had like garbage bags full of pot, like not herself, but her parent did. And it was like very accessible. So we just started smoking pot together and we did the whole like Coke can type thing and
Grav bomb. That's what I did when I smoked pot in high school. It was the Grav bomb in that
okay,
era.
and I will say Georgia pot smells a lot different than Washington. Just side note there. I'm like, it's Pacific Northwest, so it was okay. Anyways,
different climate, different growing conditions.
So I started smoking pot, and it was just like, I'm like, I like to be energized. So pot wasn't really my thing because and then I started drinking alcohol, they're kind of downers.
Both depressants.
Just kind of like, so I'm like, I don't even like these. So I just started experiencing a little more. At this time in my life, my parents were trying to control me. And it's like, you cannot control me. I'm my own boss. I'll do whatever I want. And they were locking my window shut. So I wouldn't sneak out. I was one of those kids. And then I was like, I'm just going to run away. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to run away. I'm going to party, have fun, hang out with friends, and who cares? And during that time of my life, I thought I was getting what I wanted, and just more brokenness, more traumatic experiences I had in that time that I won't cover too deeply on those experiences, but there were things that happened that would have never happened if I would have just, listened. Parents put rules there for a reason to protect you for your safety. And I was just like, screw it. I don't care. I'm going to be in charge of myself. So I just started hanging out with more and more friends and discovering more and more drugs. So I started doing ecstasy and acid, dropping acid. That was very freaky in my life.
So you choose to go on this path of like, I'm rebelling, I'm my own boss, and you went way down. What was a rock bottom and what caused the shift? Because obviously we know people who spend their lives doing ecstasy and doing acid and smoking pot. They're not as bright and influential and as warm as you are. So there had to be a shifting point.
I honestly didn't have a rock bottom. I was like, for me, I didn't have a rock bottom, but my circumstances drastically changed. So by this time in my life, I'm 15 years old. I had ran away. I was living in Seattle. I was basically on the streets, staying at different friends' house, staying in shelters, squatting in different places. At this time in my life, I had started smoking or snorting meth and then smoking it and then shooting it. And then it changed to shooting heroin. And so I had only done that like a few times in my life, but I experienced quite crazy withdrawals, even just doing it a few times. And there was this one pivotal moment in my life when I was there, which there was a lot of street kids in Seattle, like just a big amount. It was the summertime too. And so it was like, we're community, we're family. We kick down drugs. We are just like this family type thing. But then when I had this husband and wife gave me heroin, and they gave me way too much. And I thought I was going to die. And I was in a park and I was talking to one of my friends and I was like, hey, I think I'm going to die. Like, I got way too much heroin. All I want to do is fall asleep. And I know that once you fall asleep, like, you can actually die in your sleep. And I was like, please, could you call an ambulance for me? And he was like, I am not calling an ambulance. I am not getting in trouble for you. And so that was like, these street people that I know that are claiming to be like my friends, they don't really care about me when it comes down to it. So during that time, there was so much happening, but there was a situation that I was involved with somebody that had, that was tweaking out. The cops were called and he jumped out of a window and I was left there with a couple other people. While I was in that room, I was spun out of my mind, had been up for few nights, was hallucinating. They found his wallet in the room. They found his ID. And so he was arrested. But he thought that I turned him in, I was like, I don't even know your last name, dude. Like, how could I turn you in? I'm a 15-year-old kid. So he got busted for 2 teeners of meth and he had 2 guns that, were illegal or whatever. I saw him later on and he was like, if I see you again, I'm going to kill you. And so it was during this time when I saw somebody else, a friend that I knew, and she was like, you need to leave Seattle because your life is being threatened. And it was at that same time, I know it's like a lot of stories going on all at once, but it was at that same time where this couple gave me too much heroin. And I was almost like, I was really felt like I was going to die. And I was like the type of person that I will never stop doing drugs. Like, I will die doing drugs because I love them so much. I love the way they make me feel. And so there wasn't really anything in my life. Like, people would warn me, hey, look at my teeth from doing all this meth. My teeth are messed up. You don't want to do this. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to die doing drugs because it makes me feel so awesome. It makes me forget about my problems. It makes me forget about like the pain that I'm feeling right now. And so when I had that experience with taking too much heroin, I was like, I stayed at somebody's house and actually woke up the next day, which was a miracle. I was like, I'm alive. I cannot believe I'm still alive. Let me do more drugs now. And it was during that same time that I actually called home. And my mom, so I had that warning with somebody on a bus. And then I had another warning from my mom saying, hey, I saw these friends. They tried to lure you to a concert. And when they lured you to the concert, they actually sacrificed you and killed you.
That was a dream she had?
Yeah. And
wow.
So she told me that, which was incredible that I even called home. I stayed at a shelter that night and called home for some random reason. And then she told me the dream that she had. So during the swirl of things with somebody saying that they're going to kill me, somebody else telling me I should leave Seattle and then I'm like, my mom having this dream, I'm like, I'm getting the hint that I should leave Seattle. And so the next day after I talked to my mom, I am going down, there's a strip in Seattle, it's called the Ave. And so I was walking down the Ave and it was like early morning because you have to leave the shelter early morning. So I was seeing all these other like street people that were on the streets. And I was like, hey, you want to come with me? These girls that I knew were asking me to go to the park with them. And they were like, oh, we want to smoke you out. And I'm like, well, I don't really smoke pot. I don't really want to go to the park, but I felt reluctant. Like I had to go with them. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to go with them anyways. As I am looking back at this moment, I realized something was going to go down at that park. Like they were going to do something. So I'm walking to this park after my mom tells me this dream. And I see all these people that I knew. And I was like, hey, you want to come with me to the park? And they're like, nope. I was like, hey, you want to come with me to the park? They're like, nope. I'm like, what is going on? Because it was like 4 girls and they had this other guy that was wearing like sunglasses and a hat. And he was like a big guy. And I was like, this is sketch right now. But I just feel like I have to like go with them. And so as I'm walking down this strip called the Ave, there's a restaurant that I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was called The Last Exit. And I passed this restaurant called The Last Exit, and we're across the street from the park, and there's these like apartments there. And I'm like, I cannot go with them to the park, because the park is not like a park with like slides and stuff. It's more like a secluded place where like
Nature.
hippie type people did like drum circles. We do like drum circles there, hacky sacks, all that kind of stuff in the 90s. And I was like, I can't go with you to the park. And they were like, hey, well, I just want to let you know, we think you're a beep, 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 beep. And they started beating the crap out of me right there. And I was like, I just like trying to get away from them. I was like walking up the stairs in the apartment complex. And finally, I don't even know how long it had been, but somebody was like, hey, get off of her. And at that moment, I realized, okay, maybe what people are telling me, like, I need to get out of Seattle is legit. And so I left Seattle that day.
Wow.
But I still was like, drugs. I love drugs. Like, I love how they make me feel. So I went back to Marysville, which I'm from in Washington State. And when I went back home.
How far is that from Seattle?
It's like 40 minutes. So somebody drove me back there. And of course, I had lice like crazy. And my parents were just like, what is she doing here? And I had all my needles with me, which, of course, rewind. Seattle was like huge with like the needle exchange so that people could have clean needles while they did drugs, which I mean, I'm thankful for. But at the same time, it was like, okay, well, you're kind of like affirming this addiction. But at the same time, it was like, well, you always had clean needles. Okay. So anyways, I had my needles with me. I'm going back home, and my sister is like losing her mind because I have lice so bad. And so they're giving me lice treatments, and I'm just thinking about how I can get drugs again. Like, I'm like, who do I know that does like hard stuff? So I'm calling around, this is before cell phones. So it's like the
landlines with the squiggly wire.
Yeah, the squiggly,
connected to the phone.
Yeah, not even, what is it? Without where you could like walk
wireless.
around. Wireless.
It wasn't a wireless home landline. It was a...
This is 97, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like calling my cousin. I'm like, who do you know that does meth or heroin or something hard? And she was like, well, I know somebody, they'll meet you at the bowling alley. I'll meet you here in like an hour and a half. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk to the bowling alley. It was like probably 7, 8 o'clock at night. I'm not really sure exactly what time it was, but I'm like, yeah, I'm going to walk. And if I look back at it now and think I'm a 15-year-old girl calling my cousin who's like an adult, asking her if she knows somebody, she knows a guy. I'm going to meet some random guy at a bowling alley to get drugs. That's a very dangerous situation to be in. Not smart. So it wasn't smart at all. Very stupid. So I'm like walking to the bowling alley to meet somebody to get drugs. And all of a sudden, like I'm sidetracked. And I walk into a church. And it was a church that I was kind of familiar with. I did community service at that church when I was 12. And I can't remember, like I would always walk by, I'd always see it. So apart from like doing community service, like somebody I knew was like, hey, there's always purses at this church. And I go and like, there were always purses left by themselves. And she would always like steal at the church. So I kind of knew about that church. And I just was sidetracked and walked in the church. And in the hallway, when I get into this church, it was a Wednesday night. I see somebody I know from my school, from my like high school. And his name was Dana. And I see him and okay, I thought Dana was so cute. A guy. I was like, oh, Dana is adorable. And so I was talking to Dana and I was telling him all about my life, what I was doing. And he was like, do you want prayer? And I was like, well, if this cute guy is asking me if I want prayer, I'm going to say yes. Even though at that time I wasn't like, didn't believe in God or anything like that. And so he got his youth pastor, which was Benny Perez. I don't know if you've heard of Benny Perez at all.
I haven't.
So Judah Smith is his brother-in-law.
Okay.
Judah Smith is pretty well known. So
he's a pastor in New York, right?
He was a pastor in Kirkland in Washington State.
Oh, okay. Is that the one that was Justin Bieber's pastor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Judah Smith. He went viral for being Justin Bieber's pastor. Yeah.
So yeah, I would go to his church a lot. But well, it was his dad's church at the time. He was a youth pastor. And so anyways, I walk in at Benny Perez. He grabs his pastor, who is Benny Perez, and Benny Perez prays for me. Instantly, when he prays for me, I can't stand and I am on the floor. And I've never felt anything like this in my life.
No drugs in your system.
I'm like, what is happening right now? And I was on the floor bawling my eyes out. Of course, at this time, I was into like punk rock, hard rock, alternative type music. So I was wearing like chains and spikes. And I guess he got some ladies to go over and pray for me. I mean, this is in the foyer. So it wasn't even like in the church, I didn't even hear a message or anything. I was just in the hallway. And they start praying for me and they're like, take off your jewelry. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what's happening. Like, I've never seen this before. I've never seen anybody experience anything like this. And so it was just such a surreal experience. But when I was on the floor, which I kind of look back and see it as like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like I was there, like in my body. It just feels like when I see that moment, I was watching myself, if that makes sense. And when I remember that experience, I felt like you don't have to do anything. God loves you. I love you. And that's what I felt in that moment. Like, I didn't have to try to like be this perfect person, that I was loved by God. And so that really changed my whole life, because I wasn't trying to be that person that anybody liked. I just was going after what I wanted and myself. And so to know that I was loved by God despite like doing all this bad, quote unquote, bad things, I was like, it was really impactful for me. And it actually changed my life. And I didn't do drugs after that moment.
Wow.
I think I smoked pot one time though. And
realized you didn't do that anymore.
I was like, I better not mess with it.
Yeah.
There was just like a different conviction of like, where before I didn't really have a conscience of like what I was doing. But then I was like, oh, I shouldn't do this. This is like, this will kill you. This
wrong.
is dangerous. This is bad for you.
Wow.
I'd never experienced that before. And so my life changed, but I didn't really know like, okay, you're supposed to go to church and read your Bible. I didn't really know all those things, but slowly but surely started doing those things.
Yeah. But it sounds like you had an encounter with God in that moment that, let's be frank, it had all the religious normals peeled off of it. You weren't in a dedicated service. You weren't at a major conference or revival message. You were in the foyer of a church. You were just stepped across the threshold, and God encountered you.
Yeah.
And changed your life.
Changed my life completely. I thought I was going to be a statistic. I should have been a statistic of like some 15-year-old girl dying in an overdose. But every time I think about it, I'm just like so grateful for what I have, what I've been given, that I'm made it this far in my life.
But God.
There's right.
There's multiple scriptures in the New Testament, and maybe the Old Testament as well, in the Bible, that they detail, and I don't have any specifically on top of my head because this is right off the top of the noggin, but it'll detail a specific bad situation, and then it'll have the words "but God," and then a positive outcome. And the point is, in these multiple iterations of the "but God" being in the middle, is He can take any situation that's negative and transform it into something that's redeemed, beautiful, restored. And I think you're an excellent and a perfect example of that, because for those listening who maybe have done hard drugs and have struggled with that, they know, and it's not just drugs, any addiction.
For sure.
They know that for most addictions, it's especially with drugs, you can't just cold turkey like that. You have to go to rehab, or you have to, go through a series of, restorative processes. But you had this life transforming encounter with God, and it changed the course of your life forever.
Forever.
Yeah, that's incredible. So that was in what year? 1997?
97. And it changed my life. And I wasn't perfect after that experience, but
none of us are. Yeah.
I still did a lot of stupid things, still a lot of compromise, but my life was like completely transformed. Like people at school, because I was known in my school for being crazy. Like I would like drink in the bathroom, like just have like bottle of like tequila in the bathroom, and a bottle of liquor at school. Like they're like, what is up with Evie? Like in junior high, they'd be like, what is she doing? People were just dumbfounded because they're like, she was so far wild, crazy, just like doing stupid stuff. And then my life was, they were just like, they didn't really know what to do with me. And I would like try to preach the gospel to them. They'd be like, what is this? Is this the Evie that like just was at a party last week? Like, what is up with this?
Yeah. It's hard for when you build a social reputation, whether it's a school, workplace, a church, a community of belonging, anywhere. And then you go through something like that where you change 180 degrees. Your life is completely flipped, but people don't know the flip. People know the years and months of data points of, oh, she's drinking in the bathroom. Oh, she's doing this. That's crazy. She's, involved in all these drugs. She's run away from home. And that can be hard to recover from, because there's a real implication of, it's easy to paint the fairy tale that when we have maybe life-changing events with God, and it does change our life, that everything gets better, but it doesn't. Because even though you've, switched to a different path in life, you still have to, in many ways, face the consequences of the choices that you've made up until that point. Not maybe spiritually, but practically and more physically with the world around you.
Because I was arrested many times. So even after that experience, I violated my probation in some way. I had to go back to Denny Youth Center. So, there's a lot of things that I still had to walk through my former life of, getting in trouble and being, having to deal with the law and everything like that. So, but ultimately, I think that is what created the drive inside of me for people, because I'm like, I was so like hurting and broken, use drugs as an outlet. I want to go to those same people and tell them there is hope. You don't have to be an addict forever. You don't have to die an addict. You don't have to be stuck in this situation forever. You can get out. There's hope for you. So I think that has like catapulted me into like, doing
all the service,
going to
inner city, the hardest and darkest,
city, Mozambique, Uganda, wherever.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So just to recap, because I know we talked about meeting Gabe earlier, working in the inner city in LA, moving to Atlanta. Now to pick up back where we were there, you're 15 years old, you get radically saved and transformed. You kind of maybe finish out high school, and then you find your way down into LA in the early 2000s.
Yes. And
eventually moved to Atlanta. Did you live in Mozambique and Uganda in between LA and Atlanta? Or
No. So that was in 2011 to 2012.
Okay. So you moved to Atlanta in the early 2000s, mid 2000s?
2003.
Okay. So you're in Atlanta for several years. And then in 2011, you and your husband and
four kids at the time.
Okay, 4 kids at the time. Pick up and move to Mozambique.
To Maputo.
Tell me about that.
Okay.
I don't even know where Mozambique is.
Yeah, so we loved our church. We loved our community. We didn't want to go there, but we felt like we were supposed to go. So I had taken a trip before that, and I really felt like I'm going to go back, but I didn't want to, but it was so transformative for my kids to get them out of their worldview and to see other cultures, how other people live, and kind of like, oh, it's, 2/3 of the world don't live like we Westerners are living here. And so to experience life from another culture, it was, I think it's a really big gift, because you have to go in, you're like a newborn baby. You're going to another country, you're living there. You don't speak the language. Like we had done at that time, it was like Rosetta Stone. So we did Rosetta Stone. I knew stuff from Spanish because I took Spanish in high school, did like trips to Mexico when I was a kid. So I knew had the basics of Spanish. And so learning Portuguese, it came a little bit easier to me, but still not knowing the culture and the way they do things. It feels like you're you just been dropped on another planet and you're like, I don't even know what to do. I don't speak the language, nothing. So it definitely builds a lot of empathy with you. You see like, immigrants here or people that, have gone maybe on asylum, or maybe they just came here as refugees, or they just came here just because they wanted to. But even moving somewhere because you want to, it's very hard to adapt and to like get accustomed to that culture.
Yeah. You're not visiting for a week. You are living there day in and day out.
And then we were on a base with about 200 orphans, I want to say. And then it was maybe 50 missionaries from around the world. Okay. So we were on a base in Maputo, and they speak Portuguese there. So, but then even though they speak Portuguese as their main language, Xangana, it was like, the community language, their mother tongue language. So they would speak that often. So it's very hard to get adapted to that.
Yeah. So you moved there as Christian missionaries to work in this orphanage.
Yes.
With your husband and 4 kids in tow.
And it was crazy because as soon as I found out we were going, or as soon as we booked the flights, I found out I was pregnant with my 5th child. So I'm like, am I going to have a baby? I guess I'm going to have a baby in Mozambique. This is going to be wild because I've never experienced. It's just not just a new culture, a new place. And it was at this time when we moved there, it was one of, poverty was very high. It was probably one of the most poorest countries during that time when we moved there. The average income was like a few dollars a day. So even moving there was really challenging because the atmosphere was like a really hopeless atmosphere when we were there because, people are starving. People are dying. They were taking care of babies who were dying. And it was very hard, but at the same time, it was definitely a learning experience of just being in a church service and somebody saying, how many people have you known somebody who's died of starvation? And every single Mozambican raised their hand. It was like, wow, I don't know of anybody who's starved and died because of it. And so it was life-changing to be there.
Wow.
And experience it.
And for most people, myself included, listening, you think, well, how could you starve this opportunity? But that's a Western mindset. If you grow up and you spend your whole life living in a Western country or a first world country, you're not familiar with what it's like for there not to be opportunity down the road or a government program to provide subsidy, to provide
they didn't have
access. It was survival of the fittest. And I can absolutely imagine how that would be life-changing and perspective altering. So you lived there for a year, and did you end up having your 5th child born there?
Yes.
Okay. So your 5th child is a Mozambican citizen, right? Is that how that works?
I would say South African.
South African.
Because we went to South Africa. So when we go to the base, I asked them, can I have the baby on the base? Because I had home births before. So they were like, no, that's a liability issue. You can't have your baby on the base. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like hire a doctor to deliver the baby and do like a home birth in South Africa. So I had it all worked out where I was going to have my baby at this place. It was called Mercy Air. And it was like, kind of like it wasn't like a hotel, maybe like Airbnb. So I was going to have my baby there. Well, they closed. So my due date for Jonathan, which is my 5th child, it was in January. And the seasons are opposite. So it was like Christmas time, but it was like the hottest time of the year. And so I was thinking, okay, we'll go for a few weeks, celebrate Christmas in South Africa, have the baby there. And so a few weeks before we're supposed to like take a holiday trip, I called Mercy Air and I was like, okay, you all set like for us to come? Because I had booked them in advance. And they said to me, you are not in the system. And I was like, wait a minute, where are we going to go? Okay. At this point in our life, I'm still like an advocate of like not having a lot of debt. So we had one credit card that was in case of emergencies. We'd only what was in our account. We didn't have a savings account at this time. We didn't have any money, basically. And so we're like, oh, Mercy Air was really inexpensive. And so it was like, what are we going to do? Because the only credit card that we brought when we first went there, our son had this injury, and it should have only been like $300. He like cut his eye really bad. It should have only charged us $300, but they charged us $3,000, maxed out our only credit card that we brought. So not only did we not have any money to like, okay, let's just go wherever. And we didn't have any insurance, of course, because we're in Mozambique, we're in another country. We're like, okay, what are we going to do? And plus I have to pay the doctor as well. So we're like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen. So our base leader reached out to all the people that they knew, which was 50 plus people on their contact list, maybe even more. I'm not even sure. And said, hey, this couple, they're from the US. They need somewhere to have their baby. And nothing. Like nobody has any space for us. And at this time, it's like December, like a few weeks before we're supposed to leave. Everybody's like, where are you going to have your baby? I'm like, I have no idea. Like we check out a few places, a few hospitals in Mozambique even. And like, it was just, there was like a hospital there, but their C-section rate was like 80%. And so I was like, I'm really worried about having a baby in a hospital, but like finding a place to rent out, it was like, I don't know where to go. Like where to even look for that. Cause we didn't have like phones, Airbnbs in South Africa, we didn't have that access. So during this time, we just were like, I don't know what we're going to do. I was like, maybe we should just go back to the States because I don't know what's going on. But the only flight that was available was like Christmas Day. So we're like, okay, I guess that will be way too close to my due date. We can't go back. So, I would say like a few days after this happened, like we're like not knowing we're going to have the baby. The midwife that I had hired called me and was like, hey, do you still need a place? And we're like, yes, we need a place. She was like, this couple, they're going on holiday and the same people that watch their dog every time. And they already asked a bunch of people at the church, they can't do it. And they said that you can stay there and watch their dog for 2 weeks and have your baby at their house. So we don't know these people. It's crazy, but they said that we could have our baby at their house. Wow. Which is, I don't know how many people I would let have their baby at my house, especially like a stranger. So we get to their house, we celebrate Christmas, we have an awesome time, and it's getting down to the wire. Like, okay, Jonathan should be coming. Like, but the time is coming to a close. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what we're going to do. And it was during this time as well that the base nurses in Mozambique call us and they're like, because we're kind of considering maybe we'll just say, hey, we have to come back and have the baby on the base. But the base nurses called us and they're like, hey, the measles broke out on the base. You can't come back for at least 2 to 3 more weeks, depending on when the last case is. We're going to try our best to isolate, but measles is deadly for infants. They can't get the vaccine. And, we're on base with 200 kids. Like, there's nothing, so we're like, we can't come back to the base till the measles we're like 2-3 weeks. Like, yeah, we're leaving this house in a few days. So
something that wouldn't happen in America.
Yeah, right.
You wouldn't be told, hey, you can't go here for 2 or 3 weeks because of measles. But yeah, in Africa, in Mozambique, this is something you're facing in real time.
So we're like, okay, we're just going to pray and just trust the Lord. We don't know what's going to happen, but okay, like God brought us here, so we're just going to depend on him. And so I think a few days before we're supposed to leave, the doctor was like, hey, you should really take this pill to get labor started because you want to have the baby like before you leave the house. At this time, it would probably just be awkward too because there's a little bit of recovery afterwards. So I'm like, but I just felt like I do not want to take this pill. I do not want to take it. Like, God knows the timing of this baby, when this baby is supposed to be born. And I don't want to plus the pill was like illegal in the US. So it was like banned.
That's another red flag. Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to take this pill.
Illegal in the US.
Illegal. I looked it up. And so didn't have a phone, but had Google. Okay. So I decided, no, I'm not going to do it. So the next day we're leaving the house. And before this, we're like, just gave our burdens, whatever, gave it up. And we're leaving the house. And my husband is getting in the car and he's like, okay, God, you said, don't worry about tomorrow, but tomorrow's here. What are we going to do? And he felt an impression in his heart that he would always say to the kids when the kids, like we were doing errands and like the kids would be like, what are we doing? Where are we going? And he would say, just sit back and enjoy the ride. Like there's zebras outside. Just look at the zebras. So he felt like an impression in his spirit that God was saying, just sit back and enjoy the ride. So we get in the car and we're like, it's the day of my due date. It's my due date. Can't go back to Mozambique. We just started driving around like we don't know anybody. We don't have GPS. We're just like, okay, I think there's a church over here. Maybe we'll just drive. We have one of those flip phones, so we don't even have a smartphone. Like, I would say 15 minutes about after we're driving. I think after we went to breakfast, or maybe it was before, we get a call from our doctor, the one that we hired to deliver the baby. And he was like, hey, you guys still looking for a place to stay? And we're like, yeah, we need a place to stay. And he was like, well, there's these, there's a YWAM base. There's missionaries that were in the United States raising funds, and they were supposed to be back today, but they didn't make their goal for raising funds. And they said that you could stay at their house and have your baby at their house. So at this point, we're like, okay, I don't even care what it looks like. We're going somewhere. So we stayed at that house. We ended up staying at the house for probably 4 to 5 weeks.
Wow.
And we have Jonathan there, which was another thing. Our kids were really young. I think our oldest was 8 at the time. So we're like, we just were counting on, okay, I either go into labor in the middle of the night. Like, I don't have anybody to watch the kids during this time. Like, I'm not like, I'm natural. I love home births, but I'm not that natural where I want my kids like hanging out while I'm giving birth. So it was on that YWAM base where my kids made friends with a bunch of kids, and I was able to have my baby there in a stranger's house.
Wow.
And that was a very awkward experience, but I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, it was like, you can't do anything. Like, your hands are tied. You can't do anything. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, provision and resources open up that are beyond your capabilities. So
God provides all your needs.
Yeah.
That's an incredible story. So he was born in South Africa.
South Africa.
You went back to Mozambique a couple weeks, 5 weeks later. How long were you there? And did you go straight to Uganda after that?
So we were there on the base probably until like February. We were there May 2011 to the end of May 2012. So we're in South Africa January to like mid-February. And then we went back to Mozambique, and that was a different experience because, you know how, like, I don't know if your wife is like this, but, you know, when you have a baby, you're like, this is my baby, germs, like, and there on the base, like, everybody just takes the baby out of your hands. It's just like a total another culture.
Yeah.
They're just like
celebrating.
Oh, yes. And it was, so thankfully Jonathan was my 5th kid. So I was more relaxed.
Oh, my wife would have lost her mind if she was walking around and people just started snatching the baby, which in their eyes is totally normal. We're going to share this amazing accomplishment with our culture, I assume, as part. Yeah. And she's just, I could just.
I mean, I have little kids carrying the baby, like, hey,
wow,
this is awesome. You had your baby, and I'm like, I'm still, you know, it's my 5th child, but I'm still like, I want to protect my child because he did end up getting sick while we were there. That's a whole nother story. Oh, wow. But yeah, he got whooping cough when we were there on the base because, you know, again, like, he wasn't old enough to get the vaccine for whooping cough. He got it. It was definitely challenging and testing, and just have to release and let go and know our days are numbered, and I just have to trust that, I just have to trust God with this and let go. And so, but he ended up being okay. He survived whooping cough.
That's awesome.
Absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
The most traumatic experience, I think, it was a baby having whooping cough.
How long was he ill for?
It was a few months. I mean, whooping coughs last I would have nurses coming over in the middle of the night doing this to his chest. I mean, they're like slapping. I can't even do the slap that they do. They're like cup their hand some way and like do this to his chest to get him to breathe. It was during that time where another person that I knew, their baby also had whooping cough, and the baby's lung collapsed, and they're in the hospital and like ICU in South Africa. And there was a few times where I thought we were going to go to South Africa, but we just prayed and we made it through. We trudged through that time.
Wow. So you eventually leave and go to Uganda to live as well as a missionary?
We lived in Uganda for 2 months, and we were helping another organization that were there. They did a lot of stuff in the community there as well. And then they did, you know, they had different missionaries being sent out and doing, you know, taking care of people's needs. that is something that is huge that you need. You don't just, need people to go out and tell people about the gospel, but you want to meet actually tangible needs and help the community. So we were there for a few months in Uganda, and that was crazy as well.
That's fair.
We took a team there. We were all living in the same house.
Okay.
That was wild.
Yeah. I do want to touch on what you just said. I think it's important. One of the miracles that Jesus did that comes to mind that I think showcases what you just said very well is when he fed 5,000 people with the 2 fish and 5 loaves. I always get the numbers mixed up, but he didn't just share good news with them or teach them how to live a morally better life.
Yeah.
He provided for their physical needs in the moment by providing them sustenance, by giving them a meal. Obviously through the miraculous multiplication, as if you follow the story, as a sign to his, being God's son. But I think more importantly for those people in that moment was they were able to see real ministry in real time, meeting real needs. And I think in our context today, like what the mission space you were part of there, and what even going back to what you were doing in Los Angeles and in Atlanta, when we're meeting people's needs, I think it's one of the best and most authentic expressions of our faith. The Bible says true religion is taking care of widows and orphans, and that is, it's powerful to take something that happened to you at 15 years old, a transformation, and then now apply it to the world around you, and not just your one little nook in Washington, but for you as an example, you take it really all around the world and you share that through practical action. And I think a lot of people who maybe or are more cynical towards Christianity don't get to hear that story enough, where people do experience that transformation and then do take it and spread it to the world around them, around the globe. They only see the headlines, the scandals. And I think it's something we might overlook being Christians. We live in the Christian world and we have that Christian worldview, but yeah, it's important for us to be active in our faith, which a part of that is being generous, being kind,
for sure,
being a contributor to society, someone who gives back with our time, with our effort, with our money. And I just love how you did that. So you come back to Atlanta in 2013.
So 2013, we're there, and then we go back again to Uganda in 2014.
Yeah.
Because we're just like, hey, we're moved for just outside of our bubble. We love like inner city ministry, but we also love just like going to different parts of the world as well and making a lasting impact, or, just, I don't want to say it like that actually, but going to different parts of the world and just doing good, basically.
Yeah.
Going out and
being a light. So you had 5 kids up until that point. You've had 5 more since then. I'm sure you have some very insightful takeaways on parenting. And I mean, you've probably seen it all. You have 10 kids. They're all probably some similar, some are different. I would imagine they're all unique and different. What is something, or it could be multiple things, that you've learned in the journey the past 23 years in parenting it's a tribe. It's a small tribe of people living in under one roof. I know some have moved out now as they've gotten older, but what's something that you've learned that you think maybe someone such as myself who's just had their first child could learn from something that you've gone through?
I feel like you can't take a lot of things personally. and it's like, as a parent, you invest into your child, you give them nurture them, you give to them, you pour your whole life into them. And you're just, a lot of times, like, you might not get a thank you. Like a lot of times they might not be. My kids are very like, they do, like, if I take them, I feel like they're deprived children sometimes, because if we go to like Chick-fil-A and get ice cream, they'll be like, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, they're really appreciative right now, but it's not like every day that you're going to get thank yous. They'll be mad at you sometimes. They'll be like, I don't, Mom, you're the worst, or whatever. They'll say it if you make them do their homework, do their chores or stuff, but not to take it so personally. It's not an attack against you, or, when you're, especially in the toddler years when they're just like trying to figure out everything for themselves, and they want to get into stuff, and they're going wild and all over the place. It's just not taking that too seriously. I mean, I think before, when I was like a younger mom and my 2-year-old was rambunctious and going out, like having their temper tantrums, it was like, oh, this is embarrassing. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed. But yeah, it happens. That's a part of life. They have fits, they have meltdowns. They have temper tantrums, and just like not take it too personally. And you will mess up. You'll do things that you don't want to do. You'll say things you shouldn't. But I think a big thing with parenting is like when you are wrong, when you've done something wrong, when you said something, oh, I've lost my patience, or, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. And, or whatever that you're doing that, you're like, you don't want to do, just to apologize and be like, hey, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't raise my voice, or shouldn't have, whatever it is, to apologize and to actually like apologize, to make it right with your child, and not like kind of brush it off. Like, well, I'm your parent and you just need to do what I say. And, or I'm your parent and that's just how it goes. And, but just like, if you do lose your patience, or you do whatever, yell to just make it right or whatever. So I think that's a biggest thing I've learned to.
Yeah. Do you think that saying hey, I was wrong and I apologize, do you think that goes a long way to a kid, to a teenager, when maybe there is tension or friction? I remember when I was a teenager. I know you remember when you were a teenager.
Mm-hmm,
we are on our own journey and our own course to discover the world for ourselves. And the last person we want contributing to our lives is our parents, as far as wisdom or guidance. Like, it's the last thing we want to hear. When you do share those apologies, and you do open up in that honest and really a vulnerable state of, hey, I was wrong, I shouldn't have yelled, I shouldn't have raised my voice. Does that message come across? Does it help? Does it help? I guess that's what I'm asking. Does it help?
Seeing my adult children now, and, not being a perfect parent, because there's no perfect parents. And I'm not talking about like if you're doing something that's really wrong, you might need to seek help. I'm talking about the little offenses of like, maybe yelling or saying stuff like, whatever a comment you make that maybe to like somebody else, like, oh, I shouldn't have said that to that person. I shouldn't have done that, or whatever it may be. I think it does go a long way, because my adult children will be like, I've gotten their feedback, and they're like, man, the way that you did apologize to us, even when we were younger, it meant so much. It was so valuable, because you have to it's just teaching them to take responsibility. You're 100% responsible for yourself. Your kid that's acting out can't make you be firm with them or make you yell, or because you're losing patience, and a kid can't make you do that. You're 100% responsible for yourself, and taking that ownership, I think it's going to teach them, it's going to impart to them how to take ownership and responsibility, and hopefully it will teach them actually, but hopefully it'll teach them to take ownership and responsibility, and that they are 100% responsible for themselves, and that their choices and their actions that they make, and to that extreme ownership phrase that I've heard out.
Great book by, I want to say Jocko Willink.
Was it him? Yeah.
I could be off, but I think it's Jocko Willink. Yeah. It's him and Leif.
I'm not going to remember this name.
I was gifted that book in my teenage years, actually, my late teenage years, and maybe it was my early 20s, and you have a Navy SEAL in this book, just a quick tangent. He's talking about, he's a commander in the Navy SEALs in the war in Iraq, and he's leading missions, and things go wrong.
Oh yes, and
I remember this. And he's recalling the failure, and he's recounting to his commanding officers what went wrong. And he's sharing how early in his career he wouldn't take ownership, but then as he got older, he just decided to start taking ownership for things that weren't his fault. He had someone underneath his umbrella of operation do something wrong. They're their own human, their own brain. They're doing something. They made a mistake, but he doesn't blame them. He takes that ownership on himself. And Exactly. Taking extreme ownership, not necessarily saying everything's my fault in an unhealthy sense, but taking responsibility for things that maybe we oftentimes say, oh, that's outside of my control. No, I made a failure somewhere before the event happened. Maybe it was intentional, maybe it was unintentional. I'm not perfect. And using that as a stepping stone and a learning block for not repeating it in the future. And I've watched several podcasts where Jocko Willink has gone on and recounted the stories of these battles and even talked about the leadership lessons from the book. And, his life is a lot broader than just that book alone. But taking ownership for the things that go wrong in our life, even if we feel like it wasn't my fault. Okay, if you experienced a trauma as a kid, yes, that wasn't your fault. But what can I learn from that experience and apply it to my future? If I have a family one day, how can I apply any sort of trauma, any mistakes that happened to me or that I made of my own acting? How can I apply that to my future to build something stronger, something more secure for my family one day? And that's a specific example with, the world of family, but it can apply to business. It can apply to really anything in life, our religious walks as well. So, yeah.
We're 100% responsible for how we respond.
Yeah.
So just keeping that in mind, and nobody can make you do anything. You weren't pushed over the edge. You weren't provoked. You did it. This was inside of you. And so even with how I went off the deep end when I was a teenager, and there was a circumstance in my life in my early years that kind of got me to where I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to control, and I'm going to control my own life, basically. I'm looking back, I'm still no, I was 100% responsible for that decision and choosing to say no to all leadership in my life and saying yes to whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah. And that is always the best choice. Sometimes it's good to have boundaries. I think a lot of people can get weird around the word boundaries, but boundaries are helpful.
Weird word. Yeah, boundaries are helpful.
For people who have struggled with them, and I know this might be hard to grasp onto because it might not make sense, not because it's difficult, but think about when you're driving down the road, there's a boundary on the side of the road so that you don't go off into a ditch or go off into a ravine if you're on a mountain. Those boundaries exist to protect you. And when obviously you can apply that analogy to life, maybe growing up as a teenager and you have boundaries, a curfew, or you have a boundary of doing, your chores or your homework. We have boundaries in life to help keep us in the safety zone. Because when we step out of those boundaries, maybe the first time I go outside the line in my car, I'm not going to die or crash. Maybe the second time I go outside the line in my car, I might not hit a tree or go into the ditch. But somewhere along the line, and if I'm driving the car and I don't want to follow these boundaries. They don't make sense to me. I prefer more adventure. This road is too smooth. I'm going to go off into this more uneven terrain because it looks more fun or it looks more adventurous. Eventually it'll catch up with you. And of course, I'm not talking about driving. We're talking about the decisions of life.
Yeah.
When we decide to abandon the things that keep us safe, which are things that keep us kind of hedged in, it's a dangerous place to be because we can end up in a place that's hard to recover from.
Yeah, I did get in a car accident when I was 18, flipped my car completely.
Oh, wow.
The ambulance or the police and ambulance that came on the scene were we don't actually see people alive from these situations, these kind of accidents. But I'm still here. But yeah, I know firsthand that you go outside those, because I fell asleep behind the wheel. So I definitely went over the boundary line and flipped my car into a ditch. And
wow.
My whole front windshield, the roof of my car was all caved in and made it out. But yeah, you can't, those boundaries are there to keep you safe, and going outside of it can be, I think a lot of people use the word boundary though. I have boundaries, but they use them in a way that's I don't want anything hard. I don't want to deal with anything. I don't want to have any negative like critique about what I'm doing wrong.
That restricts me. Yeah. I want to follow my own truth.
So I'm going to have a boundary here to protect myself from your negative vibes. And so that's why I think why boundaries have a like it kind of makes me cringe almost when people say the word boundaries, because it can kind of be used to safeguard yourself in a negative way to where you don't want any influence on your life, anybody speaking into your life at all, no voice in your life, so you can do what you want and then be affirmed in that decision. So that's another side of boundaries that...
The heart, I just thought about this verse, Bible verse, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Who could know it? We should not be leading our own lives. We should be, of course, as Christians, we submit to God and in the Bible as the authority on how we decide to lead our lives. But even for those that aren't Christians, you should have somebody or someone who's reputable speaking into your life, a parent,
for sure,
or a spouse, a mentor, family, spiritual, career, all categories. We can't do it alone. We need some sort of input. We're not built to do life alone. We're built to be in a community, family, workplace, spiritually. We're built and wired to belong to a tribe. And part of being in a tribe is having boundaries, and those boundaries keep us alive.
Some tribes are bigger than others.
Yeah. Yes, your tribe is a lot bigger than mine. Evie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Is there any final thoughts, words of wisdom, encouragement, family life, someone doing drugs, raising 10 kids?
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's a whole lot of topics.
Just one final, anything that's like on the top of your mind that you would share.
Yeah, to the moms out there, it is hard. Even if you have one baby. I know that a lot of people think, oh, if you have 10 and like you're doing it, then it's like, I don't know how I'm even surviving right now and I have one child. No, it is hard. And I don't want to like say, you know, it's super easy. But I mean, when you have more kids, they're like, you know, kind of help out a little bit more. So it does make it easier. But when you have the one, I remember the struggle of having one child and being completely responsible for that. It is very hard. And just needing all that support. I think right now in this day and age, it's like, I felt more isolated. I mean, we have like a kind of a fake, like you're part of a community with all the social media and stuff, but just have people in your life that you can turn to, like, I need a break, or just being honest with those types of things of like, I need to wash my hair. Like I need somebody to come over. I think it's hard for women to ask for help too, because they think I should be able to do this. People do this all the time. And so it's like, I should do everything and not ask for help. And that's how you get to a place where you're burnt out. And so I think moms out there that have one or have two that don't have 10, it still is hard. It still is challenging parenting, and to not be afraid to ask for help when you need it, because people love to help.
Yeah.
People love to help. It's hard. It's hard. I know this, like, oh, I don't want to ask. I think I've realized after 24 years being a mom, I've realized people ask me for help. Don't do it, because I'll take you up on it. You tell me that you offer, I'll be like, okay. It's like, I'm definitely going to take you up on it. When before I would be like really like more reluctant, because I don't want to be a burden, but like, you're not a burden. People want to help you. People love you as moms, like you need people around you. You're not meant to do it alone. Like you said, you're meant to have people around you, and just reach out, ask for help. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You've definitely given me some thoughts worth holding on to, and I look forward to sharing the episode.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can be notified every week when we launch new episodes. I'll see you then.